The story you are about to hear is one of the most disturbing, baffling, and obsessively studied criminal mysteries in modern American history. A case so twisted and so cold that even now, over half a century later, investigators, experts, and everyday people online are still trying to decode the truth behind a masked phantom who seemed to enjoy taunting an entire country. Tonight, we are diving deep into the chilling mind games, cryptic letters, terrifying attacks, and lasting legacy of the man who called himself the Zodiac, the killer who predicted he would create fear for generations. And he was absolutely right. If you stay until the end of this episode, you will hear the lesser-known clues that most documentaries leave out, the new developments that have emerged in the 2020s, and the psychological patterns experts now use to narrow down the real identity of the Zodiac. The deeper you go, the more the pieces start to connect in unsettling ways. Let's start at the beginning because, to understand the Zodiac, you have to understand the strange mix of arrogance, planning, and thrill-seeking that defined every part of his communication. It was December 20th, 1968. A quiet Friday night in Benicia, California. High school students David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen were on a simple date, planning to be home by midnight. They never stood a chance. Their bodies were discovered just off the road. No eyewitnesses, no explanation, and no immediate suspect. Police treated it like a tragic but isolated case, but it wasn't. It was the beginning of a nightmare that would span years. Fast forward to July 4th, 1969. Vallejo, Darlene Ferrin, and Michael Mageau sat in a parked car when suddenly an unidentified man approached with a flashlight, then opened fire. Michael barely survived. Darlene did not. Less than an hour later, a phone call came into police headquarters. A cold male voice calmly claimed responsibility for both shootings and ended the call saying, "I also killed those kids last year." The killer had just introduced himself and he was only getting started. A few weeks later, newspapers received the first Zodiac letters. Each letter contained a handwritten message filled with bragging, demands, and a cryptogram that he insisted would reveal his identity. He wanted his letters on the front page, and if newspapers refused, he threatened to kill dozens over the weekend. The media printed them, terrified of what might happen if they didn't. And just like that, the Zodiac controlled the narrative. He controlled the fear. He controlled the entire state of California. The first cipher, the 408, was cracked by an ordinary married couple. They translated the message into a twisted manifesto about hunting people for sport. But at the very end of the cipher, the killer included a final line that wasn't solved because he never included his name, despite promising he would. This would become a pattern. He dangled clues, played games, and always stayed just out of reach. The next attack came on September 27th, 1969 at Lake Bury. A couple, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, was relaxing on the shore when a man wearing a bizarre hooded costume with a Zodiac symbol approached them with a gun. It tied them up, then brutally stabbed them. Before leaving, he walked to Brian's car and drew the Zodiac symbol on the door, along with the dates of his previous murders. Cecilia died 2 days later. Brian survived and later described the entire encounter in chilling detail. 2 weeks later, the Zodiac struck again in San Francisco, killing cab driver Paul Stein. This time, he left behind physical evidence, bloody fingerprints, eyewitness descriptions, and even a piece of the victim's shirt, which he mailed to a newspaper. But somehow, he vanished into the neighborhood before police could catch him. The manhunt was massive, but the suspect simply melted away. As the letters continued, the Zodiac described fantasies of creating slaves in the afterlife. He mocked police. He threatened school buses. He sent more ciphers, some of which remain unsolved to this day. Across the coming months, theories multiplied. The killer's arrogance skyrocketed, and investigators realized something crucial. This wasn't about murder for him. This was about power. Several suspects emerged. Arthur Lee Allen, the most famous one, matched certain behaviors, certain statements, and certain circumstantial clues. But the evidence never fully aligned. His handwriting didn't match. DNA from the stamps and envelopes didn't match. His fingerprints didn't match. Each time investigators thought they were close, the trail collapsed. A crucial cipher, the 340 cipher, remained unsolved for 51 years until 2020, when a team of private citizens decoded it using modern software. The message was more taunting but offered no identity. Just more games. More riddles. As you watch further into this episode, think about this. Did the Zodiac stop killing, or did he simply stop taking credit? Did he move? Did he change his methods? Or was the image of the Zodiac more powerful to him than the crimes themselves? Some experts believe he was a narcissistic psychopath who fed on media attention. Others believe he was far more intelligent, a planner who evolved too quickly for law enforcement to track. Some believe the Zodiac is dead. Others believe he could still be alive today. And then there are those who believe that multiple people may have been involved, that the handwriting variations, mixed details, and unpredictable patterns point to something bigger than a single man. Stay with this video until the end, because what comes next are the clues and modern, forensic angles that most documentaries ignore, including handwriting anomalies that suggest intentional disguise, linguistic patterns that reveal personality traits, modern DNA possibilities, and a new timeline that could narrow down the killer's movements during major holidays and work cycles. When all of these pieces come together, a picture begins to form, not a full portrait, but a sharper silhouette than ever before. And as new technology improves, investigators remain hopeful that one day, a surviving piece of DNA or an overlooked detail in the letters could finally reveal the identity of the Zodiac Killer. Until then, this case remains one of the darkest puzzles in American history. A killer who may have taken lives, but who ultimately became obsessed with something else entirely. Being remembered.